These are the best uncommons and commons in the new Avatar: The Last Airbender set for Magic the Gathering. And when I'm talking about best commons and uncommons in this video, I'm going to be referring to them in limited for draft and sealed. And don't skip all the way through the video, even though you can see what the cards are, just because I'm going to explain what makes these cards so good and better than the other ones, so you can actually improve your card evaluation skills. That way, you don't actually have to watch these videos anymore, and you can improve your win rate. And make sure you stay to the very end, because I'm also going to talk about my sleeper picks, which are cards that I think are going to get better depending on how the format ends up playing out. So make sure you watch this video before you go to the pre-release this weekend or before you do your very first draft, and share this video with a friend if you find it to be helpful. So first, let's talk about the uncommons in white, and I've ordered all of the cards in these videos in order of best to least best, because they're all really good. So first is Earth Kingdom Jailer. This is a Banisher Priest type effect. Now, you can only hit creatures that are amount of value 3 or greater, but this does trade up on it, and it's got a really good stats. Typically, these Banisher Priests are like 3 mana 2/2s, so this is a 3 mana 3/3, and it can actually hit a bigger creature. Next is Invasion Reinforcements. This one's always really good. Anything that gives you 2 bodies in one card is always good, and this makes 2 allies, which we're going to see in other cards, doubles certain triggers and helps you go wide for the red-white theme and the green-white theme. And also, this has flash, so sometimes you can flash this in and kill a really important 2/2 that your opponent is attacking with. Next is Water Tribe Rallier. This is just a 2 mana 2/2, so nothing too special stats-wise, but it's got a really good late-game mana sink. So it's got Water Bend 5, which means you can actually tap creatures or your artifacts like clues or vehicles in order to pay this cost. You can do this at instant speed, by the way, and then you can look at the top 4 cards and put a creature card power 3 or less among them and put it in your hand. This is also going to force a removal spell from your opponent. Next, let's go on to blue. Now, blue is pretty deep in my opinion, so I've got quite a bit of uncommons to go through, and the first one I think is Accumulated Wisdom. This one's going to be really good because there are tons of lessons in this set, and so on its base form, it's good card selection. You pay 2 mana to look at the top 3, put one of them in your hand. But if you have 3 lesson cards, and again, there are tons of lessons, as you can see in this video and just in the overall set, you can look at all of those cards and put them all in your hand. So this could potentially be a 2 mana draw 3, which would be absolutely crazy. Next is Boomerang Basics. This is a 1 mana bounce spell. It's sorcery, but if you do bounce one of your own non-land permanents, you get to draw a card. So this could be pretty sweet if you can bounce a saga back to your hand. And all the mythic sagas are bombs, and then some of the uncommon sagas are also really good, which we'll see in this video. Next is Benevolent River Spirit. Now this one's a little bit weird. It's a 7 mana 4/5 flying ward 2, but it also lets you scry 2. Now, for the additional 5, you can water bend, tapping other creatures or your artifacts like clues and vehicles and things like that. So it's not really going to cost 7, but I mean, in a worst case scenario, it does cost 7. But I love these types of cards because they are great on the top end. It's a good game-ending threat. It's a 4/5 flying with ward 2, so it's really hard to kill. And most importantly, it's got an ETB that scries. So this is going to fix your draws, and this is exactly what you need when it's late in the game like that. Next is Grand, and this is going to be super good, obviously, in water bending, because you get to tap this, and then you get to loot every single time you water bend, and I think that's just a cherry on top, and it's also overstatted, right? It's a 1 mana 1/2, so it's pretty good for blocking all of the 1/1 tokens that are allies. A couple more blue uncommons that I think are really good. Invasive Submersible. This one is a 3 mana artifact vehicle that when it ETBs, you get to bounce a non-land permanent, including your own if you want to, and then you can exhaust Water Band 3, and then it becomes a 3/3 creature, so you don't even have to worry about crewing it. Now, keep in mind, it does not have a crew cost at all. Oh, and also, I just realized you can use itself for its exhaust cost, which makes it even better. Next is Knowledge Seeker. Now, this one I think is going to be pretty good because it's almost always a 2-for-1. It's a 2 mana 2/1 Vigilance. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it, and that's the big theme in blue-black and a sub-theme in blue-white. And when this creature dies, you get a clue token, which you can use for water bending or to just draw a card. So as long as you can trade with this, it's basically a 2-for-1. Next, let's talk about black's really good uncommons, and there's not that many uncommons, but it's got a ton of really good commons. First is Azula on the Hunt. This one is also basically a built-in 2-for-1. So it's a 4 mana, 4/3, firebending 2, and then when it attacks, you lose a life and get a clue token. So even if they trade with it, you basically go 2-for-1 there. And you can even use the firebending to crack that clue and draw a card. So I think that in itself is super good. This might be one of the best uncommons in the set. Definitely worth the pack one, pick one. Next are 2 uncommon removal spells. Nothing too special about that. Epic Downfall, it's really good because it trades up for its mana cost, mana value 3 or greater. And then Heartless Act, I want to point out that you're going to want to use the second mode of it, remove up to 3 counters from target creature, because there is earth bending in the set. And so basically if your opponent earth bends a land, you can just remove the counters from it and then just make it a land again. Or you can just straight up destroy a card. And it's an instant, so you can blow out combat tricks and other things like that. Next, let's talk about Red's really good uncommons. And Red is also really deep, both at uncommon and common. But let's start with the first one. This Saga is really busted in my opinion. Probably also going to be one of the mythic uncommons in the set. It's a Saga for 4 mana. You get 2 1/1 ally creature tokens, which is good for all of the ally synergies, certain triggers, etc. So 4 mana for 2 1/1s. Not the best, obviously. But then, Chapter 2, you get to find a mountain or cave card, put that in your hand. So you're basically drawing a card at that point. And then, Chapter 3, you get to Earthbend 3. So you also get a 3/3 out of this deal. So to summarize, you get 4 mana for 2 1/1s, a 3/3, and you put a land in your hand. So that's 4 cards worth of value for 4 mana, which I think is amazing. Next is Iro's or Ero's Demonstration. I'm sure the comments are going to roast me that I don't know how to pronounce these character names because I don't really watch anime. So you're almost always going to use the second mode here, which is deal 4 damage for 2 mana, which obviously is awesome. It trades up on bigger creatures, and it's a lesson, which is going to matter in the blue-red theme and the green-red theme. Next is Fire Sages. This is just a standard, pretty good card. 2 mana, 2/2, firebending 1, but it can grow and scale as the game goes on. And it's a good place to put your firebending mana if you don't have anything else to use. And then next is another removal spell, Combustion Technique. It's an instant lesson, which is also nice. And it can do 2 damage plus the number of lesson cards in your graveyard. And it does remove cards from the game, or creatures from the game. And that does matter because there's a lot of dies effects as well in black. Next is My Jaded Edge. It's a 2 mana 1/3, so it does pass the vanilla test, and it's really good because it has prowess, and it also has an exhaust ability as well. But the reason why prowess is good on creatures with bigger toughness is because you want to be able to survive combat. It's better than a 3/1 with prowess for 2 because it'll just die even if you get to trigger prowess one time. So this one is really good, and of course if they don't block it, then you just give it double strike, right? Next is Zuko Exiled Prince. This one got Firebending 3, and it's got a really good activate ability, which is exile the top card of your library. You can play it this turn. So you can basically get a 2-for-1 with this. They're going to have to block it or kill it before you attack. And if you get to attack with it, you get to draw a card. So that's really good. I love 2-for-1. Next, let's talk about Green's best uncommons. And Green is also really deep, both at common and uncommon. So first, let's talk about Boomy, the king of 3 trials. This card is ridiculous, by the way. So it's a 6 mana 4/4. Does not pass the vanilla test. But if you choose the last mode, you get to Earthbend 3. So 6 mana for a 4/4 and a 3/3. 7 mana worth of stats for 6 mana. Totally busted. And if you have more than 1 lesson card in your graveyard, you can choose multiples of these. So imagine you have 2 lessons. This is a 6 mana 7/7 that also makes a 3/3. Absolutely insane. And the sub-theme in blue-green and green-red is lessons. So you're going to probably have at least 2 of these triggers by the time it's turn 6. This card, absolutely busted. Definitely worth a pack one, pick one for sure. Next is Allies at Last. This is the standard fight spell that green gets in every set. It's an instant, which is also good, and it targets 2 creatures, so that way you can't get blown out if your opponent kills the first creature that you target. Next is Flopsy, Boomy's buddy, or Bumy's buddy. 6 mana, 4/4, not that great, doesn't pass the vanilla test, but it gets a counter on all creatures, including itself. So worst case scenario, it's a 6 mana 5/5. But if you have at least 1 other creature, you get to put another counter on that. Next is Earth Rumble. This is 4 mana for an Earthbend 2/2, so you get to animate a land in here. But most importantly is the second part of the card, which is you get to have a target creature you control fight a creature your opponent controls. You do not have to choose the land that you Earthbend. But keep in mind, if you already Earthbend something before, you can put 2 more counters on that same land if you wanted to make it bigger, to have it fight something. Next is Haru Hidden Talent. This is 2 mana for a 1/1, but when it ETBs, you Earthbend 1. And so you get 2 2/2 worth of stats for 2 mana at its very fail case. And then there's tons of allies in this set. And as we saw earlier, there are creatures that make multiple allies, like this one with the ally tokens. Where did that go? This one right here. Just like invasion reinforcements. So this one would actually give it 2 triggers, and it's not limited to just once per turn. So this card can actually snowball crazy if you play this early on turn 2. And by the way, the green-white archetype cares a lot about the ally subtype. Next is True Ancestry. The reason why I love this one is because it's also a 2-for-1 and it's a lesson, which matters. So you get to return any permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, and especially, by the way, if you target a Saga with this, it's going to be probably game over. And then you also get to draw a card because you get a clue token. You can use the clue also for water bending if you need to as well, but basically it's a 2-for-1 guaranteed. Next is Taff, which I think I was made fun of from in the comments before because I pronounced the name wrong, but this is a 3-mana star 3. When it ETBs, you earthbend 2, so already you got a creature, and you get a 2/2, which is really good value for just 3 mana. And then its power is equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on lands you control. So at a minimum, it's a 3 mana 2/3. But earthbending is all over the green colors. So it's definitely going to snowball as the game goes on. Now let's talk about what I think are the best uncommons in the multicolor pairs. And almost all of the uncommons are really good, the signpost ones at least, except for 2 color pairs, which you'll see in a moment. So let's start with the one that I think is the absolute best, and that is Dragonfly Swarm. This one is a 3 mana star 3, basically flying ward 1. So you get a flying evasive threat already. And then when it dies, if there's a lesson in your graveyard, you get to draw a card. So basically a guaranteed 2-for-1, and there's tons of lessons. Blue-red cares a ton about non-creature spells and lessons, so it's just naturally going to occur that way. Next is the green-black uncommon Dai-Li Agents. This one just gives you a ton of value. ETBs, Earthbend 1, then Earthbend 1 again, so you can put it on the same land or you can choose a different one. And then it's got a mediocre ability that whenever it attacks, you get to drain life. But more importantly, it's just a ton of value for 5 mana. Next is Foggy Swamp Spirit Keeper, and this tells you exactly what the blue-black archetype wants to do, which is basically draw 2 cards every single turn. And this card does pass the vanilla test, and it's got a really good keyword in lifelink to help you stay alive. It's good for blocking, good to put counters on it, and then it helps you spit out these tokens that will help you take over the game. Next is Air Nomad Legacy. This is the signpost enchantment uncommon for blue-white, and this one lets you draw a card because it gives you a clue, but you can also use that for water bending. And then this also pumps all of your flyers, which is the sub theme there. And then this is a really good thing to target with airbending. So if you can flicker this, then you get another clue token, and then you can draw more cards. Next is Hermetic Herbalist, and this is just a really good mana dork. It's a 2 mana 2/3, so it's overstated, passes the vanilla test, and it gives you mana of any color. So it does let you splash other colors, and then you can also easier to play lessons. And then my last really good uncommon is the green-white one, which pumps all of your allies, and it's also a creature. So it's good and bad because it could be easily removed by removal spells, but it also gives you a body. It does not pump itself, by the way, but it does come with vigilance. So you'll notice that I did not highlight any uncommons in red-black, because I don't think that uncommon is very good. Same thing with red-green. Also not that good of an uncommon. All right, so now let's move into the commons part now. We'll start again with white, and the first one is basically a pacifism effect, which is Path to Redemption, but they made it even better because it does have 5 mana, sacrifice it, and then exile that creature, and you get a 1/1. So if your opponent has a creature with a really nasty static ability that you need to get rid of, you can still actually use this as straight up hard removal. Next is Zhong's Deserters. This one is 2 mana, 1/2, but you can put a +1/+1 counter on any creature, including itself. So worst case scenario, it's a 2 mana, 2/3, which passes the vanilla test, but you can also put it on other creatures, and there's a +1/+1 counters matters theme in this set as well. So super flexible. Next is Kyoshi Warriors. This one is a 4 mana, 3/3 that also gives you a 1/1 ally. This itself is also an ally, so it will double your ally triggers. And then the last one here is Airbending Lesson. This one is one of the few airbending cards that lets you target your opponent's stuff, not just your own non-land permanents. And then also this one replaces itself because you get to draw a card once you cast it, and it's an instant. So you could also use this to blank removal in a pinch as well, and that would be an insane 2-for-1 on top of that. And I would always recommend Obviously, you should airbend any of your creatures with good ETB abilities, any of your sagas, or any of your other enchantments. And we've already covered one of those right here, like Air Nomad Legacy. All right, now let's talk about the blue commons, which I think are really good. The first one is Forecasting Fortune Teller. This one is a built-in 2-for-1. It's a 2-mana 1/3, so great for blocking. It's an ally, which also matters. And then it gives you a clue token, which you can use for water bending and to draw a card. So this one is really good. Imagine it a 2-mana 1/3 that drew you a card. Busted, right? Next is Watery Grasp, which I'm surprised at how many good removal spells they gave blue in this set, which is kind of scary to me. But Watery Grasp is a 1-mana enchantment aura that blue always gets in every set. That's a lockdown effect. And then worst case scenario, just like the other pacifism in white, it has a activated ability Waterbend 5, so easier to trigger. And then you get to basically put that creature into the bottom of their library and then they shuffle. Next is Lost Days, which is another crazy removal spell. It's one more expensive than it normally is. So normally this is a 4-mana removal spell that lets you put something on the top or bottom of your opponent's deck. But this one gives you a clue token on top of that. So imagine you had a card that said destroy target creature, draw a card for 5 mana. That would be insane, right? Next is Rowdy Snowballers. This one is basically a really solid version of the Mana War effect. So 3 mana, 2/2, not a good stat line, but when it ETBs, you tap something and put a stun counter on it. So this can help you get in some attacks. This is also a great thing to airbend and flicker and then keep replaying over and over again. And it's an ally. All right, now let's talk about Black's good commons. Let's start with Callous Inspector. 1 mana, 1/1 menace, so probably gets in 1 or 2 attacks at the beginning of the game. And then when it dies, you lose 1 life, but then you get to create a clue token. So it replaces itself, just such good value, and it gives you 2 things that are good for sacrifice fodder, which is one of the sub-themes in Black. That's good for black-green, black-red, and black-white. So super flexible, goes in a bunch of color pairs, really solid. Next is Corrupt Court Official. This is the discard effect that's in every single set, right? So this is like the Virus Beetle equivalent. Unfortunately, it's not an ally, but basically it's still a good card. Also really good to flicker with airbending, by the way. Next is Azula Always Lies, and this is a pretty good combat trick. This is a lesson also, which matters, and you can choose both of these, by the way. So -1/-1 and +1/+1, and it gives you that counter permanently. And then next is Canyon Crawler. Now this is one of the few really good land cycling cards. So this one is Swamp Cycling in black, and it's a 6 mana, 6/6 with Death Touch, and ETBs gives you a food. So this can help you gain some life back. The food token is also really good to use for water bending, and also there is a sacrificing theme, so that's what the food token is going to be good for as well. Now we got more really good comments for black, so black is really deep as you can tell. Next is Sold Out, and this is a bunch of the removal spells, by the way. Black's got a ton of them at common. So Sold Out, 4 mana, exile target creature. If it was already dealt damage, like from combat or something like that, then you also get a clue, which would be busted as well. 4 mana, exile target creature, so it doesn't go to the graveyard, it skips all the dies effects, and you get to draw a card. Totally busted. Next is Swamp Snare Trap. 3 mana enchantment, gives enchanted creature -5, -3. So really good removal spell, trades up. Even if it can't kill something, then basically it won't even be able to do damage either. So it still kills bigger creatures in a way. Then it's Daily Indoctrination. This one's really flexible. It's a lesson, which also matters. Unfortunately, it's a sorcery, but you can choose either of the modes depending on when you draw this card. One of the problems with discard effects is that if you top deck it, it's obviously horrible late game. So this one, as a fail case, gives you a 2 mana, 2/2. And also, Earthbend lands in this are really good to use as sacrifice fodder because it comes back onto the battlefield, so you're not actually losing anything. So that's why this card is going to be super flexible, goes in many different archetypes, green-black, black-red, black-white. And then we have another removal spell, Deadly Precision. This one is straight up destroy target creature, and then if you have the expendable stuff that you can sacrifice, it only costs 1 mana. So it's like the Bone Splinters type effect. Next, let's talk about Red's really good commons. First, I have Firebending Lesson. And unfortunately, a lot of Red's commons are just the removal spells, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about those. This one has a kicker cost for 4. You unfortunately cannot use Waterbending for this kicker cost, so you have to straight up pay the full amount. So it'd be 5 mana to deal 5, but also it's just 1 mana, deal 2. It cannot hit face, by the way, so this is only creature. It's not the same as Shock, but it is a lesson, which matters. Next is Cunning Maneuver. Now, normally I don't put a lot of combat tricks tricks in my top commons, but this one replaces itself with the clue token. This reminds me of the combat trick that gave you, it was white, it was also 2 mana for, but that one was +2/+2 and investigate, which also gave you a clue token. But the reason why this one is so good is because fire bending is the main mechanic in red, and this one basically gives you something to do and also threatens your opponent. So even if your opponent knows that you have this in your hand, it actually works out to your advantage because they're just not going to block knowing that you have this card. And this allows your creatures to trade up. Sometimes it can survive combat, but most importantly, it replaces itself and gives you something that you can tap for water bending. Boomy Bash, this one scales with the whole game because it deals damage equal to the number of lands you have. Unfortunately, it's a sorcery, but it does scale, which is kind of nice. Next is Fire Nation Cadets. It's overstated. It's a 1 mana 1/2, and it also gives you a great place to put your mana. And this can trade up with a lot of cards and threaten things during combat. And so your opponent will have a hard time blocking this 1 mana card. Next is Lightning Strike. Nothing too special. Keep in mind this can go to face. And then there's Treetop Freedom Fighters. So 3 mana 2/1, but also makes a 1/1 ally. So this gives you double triggers for the ally tokens, and this itself is an ally as well. And this one has haste, so helps you go wide, which red-white cares about. Next, let's talk about green's really good commons. First is Badger Mole, which is a 5 mana 4/4 that also gives you a 2/2 with Earthbend, and then all your creatures with +1/+1 counters have trample. So this is 5 mana for 6/6 worth of stats. I think this is probably one of the best commons in the whole set. Next is Ostrich Horse. 3 mana for 3/1, but basically you mill your top three, and then you can put a land back in your hand. So this is going to be a 2-for-1 almost all the time. Just don't block a 1/1 ally token with this one. That way you can actually trade with a real card. Next is Cycle of Renewal. This is a lesson, which also matters, and it's an instant, which is pretty nice. And it says sacrifice a land, search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them tapped. So this helps you with fixing, with ramping. Ideally, what you want to do is sacrifice a Earthbend land. That way it'll actually come back and you're going to get 3 lands from this. And so also there are some cards that care about landfall triggers, so this will give you 3 landfall triggers if you can sacrifice an Earthbend land. Next is Foggy Swamp Vine Bender. This is a 4 mana 4/3, so a little bit understated, but it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so it can't be chump blocked by those pesky 1/1 ally tokens. And it's got a really good late game mana sink. So Waterbend 5, and then you can put a +1/+1 counter on it. Now, you cannot use this on your opponent's turn, so that's one of the downsides of it. Next is Raucous Audience. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Let me know in the comments. But this is your standard mana dork in green, 2 mana 2/1, so a little bit understated. I wish it was a 2/2. But it could actually produce extra mana if you have a creature power 4 or greater. Next is Rebellious Captives, 2 mana 2/2. Nothing too special on that, but it's also got a really good late game mana sink. You can exhaust it for 6 and put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and Earthbend 2, which is really good value. Your opponent is going to have to kill this if it's in the late game, which is really funny because it's just a 2 mana card. And then we have the forward cycling card in green, and the reason why I like this one is because it's overstated. So 6 mana for a 7/7 reach. Now let's talk about some of the really good hybrid commons. The first one is Earth Kingdom Soldier. 5 mana for a 3/4, but you can put 2 +1/+1 counters on any creatures, including itself. So worst case scenario, 5 mana 4/5, which is really hard to get through. It's a really good blocker, but you just get to put a ton of extra power on the board. Maybe it gives you additional attacks that you didn't have before, and it has vigilance. So it's really good on offense and defense. Next is Pretending Poxbearers. This one is a 2 mana 2/1, but when it dies, you get a 1/1 ally token. So and this itself is an ally. So it's really good in the green-white archetype. It's really good in all of the black archetypes because it's good sacrifice fodder, and it's really flexible. So you can take this early, which is why I have it so highly. Now, let's talk about my sleeper picks, which I think are cards that could be good depending on how fast or slow this format ends up being. So first is Iguana Parrot. This is a 3 mana 2/2 flying vigilance. So actually pretty good. Kind of passes the vanilla test because you get a lot of keywords. But most importantly, this puppy's got prowess. And so in the green-blue deck, this is going to be pretty tricky. This also works nicely in the blue-white deck because it's got flying. And just the threat of having prowess makes this really difficult to block. Next is Fire Navy Trebuchet. The reason why I like this one is because whenever you attack, so this one doesn't have to attack, and obviously it can't because it is Defender, but whenever you attack, you get a 2/1 artifact creature token that you can use as sacrifice fodder for all of your stuff in black, which gets you free value. And it has reach, so it can keep you alive against those pesky blue-white flyers like the Iguana Parrot. Next is Fire Nation Raider. I'm always a big fan of the 2-for-1s, as you can tell, and that's why I have this as my sleeper pick. Now, it is tricky because you'll have to trigger Raid in order to get the full value of this card. If you cannot trigger Raid, this card is terrible. It's a 4 mana, 4/2. Your 4 mana card can die to a 2 mana, 2/2. But if you can trigger Raid pretty consistently, which I think you're going to be able to because red, the whole thing is firebending, so it's meant to be attacking and aggressive. So this gets instant 2-for-1 potential, even if this does trade with a 2/2 later on. Next is Origin of Metal Bending, and this one is just really flexible. There's a ton of artifacts and enchantments in this set, especially at higher rarities for the enchantments and sagas that you need to kill. So this is really good. It's an instant and it's a lesson, which gives it extra bonus points. And then worst case scenario, you can use this to blank your opponent's removal, give it a +1/+1 and indestructible. Next is a good filtering card, Barrows of Blasting Jelly. You get to filter your mana only once per turn, by the way, so you can't do it multiple times, but it's colorless. It can go in every single deck. It's a non-creature spell. It's an artifact, so you can use it for water bending, and also you can tap it for water bending and still have the activated ability of filtering mana. And then when you don't need to filter mana anymore, you can pay 5 and then kill something. So I think this is just super flexible, and it's going to be really good in the non-green decks that need a source of fixing. Next is Meteor Sword. So 7 mana ETB destroy creature. So worst case scenario, this is if you don't have any removal and you're at the end of the draft, you can take this card because it's kind of like a 1.5 for 1 because you can actually get some value out of it because it's equipment as well. And then I have Rumble Arena, which is a great land to put all of your Earthbend counters on, by the way. But I also really like this because it's got an ETB Scry 1, and we've seen tons of lands like this in the past, and these Scry lands or Surveil lands always should go up in your pick order. Number one, because it can help you with potential fixing if you want to splash a bomb, or a really good uncommon, as we've seen earlier. There's tons of those, but also just the value of Scrying 1 helps you fix your draws. So this may even let you keep a hand that you were supposed to mulligan as well, which gives it additional value. So because you stayed until the very end of the video, I have a bonus for you, and this is my initial color rankings of the set, just purely based on the uncommons and commons. I think blue is the best, and white is by far the worst, because it doesn't have the same strength in commons and uncommons as all these other colors do, but I think the other four are super close to one another. I think blue is probably the best because this is the first time where blue has gotten really good straight up removal, and blue is normally a really good support color, but in this one, I think because it's got a solid removal package and good card draw, and because the waterbending ability is so flexible, I think that's what makes blue the best. Next would be black. Now, black doesn't have its own specific mechanic like the other ones do, right? There's no black bending, but because the cards are so flexible, they can go in any different color pair, and there's just tons of really good uncommons and commons in black and straight up removal, that this is my choice for the second best. Green and red, honestly, is pretty close. You could go either way with them. I just have green higher because it's really good for fixing. It allows you to splash the other colors, so it gets you more power in your deck. You can splash for removal if you end up short on that. And as we can tell, a lot of the creatures are just really good value. 4 mana for 6/6 worth of power and stuff like that. And then we have red next, also really close. Pretty solid removal packages, good uncommons and commons, and I think you can't go wrong there. And then white is by far the worst because, as you could see in this video, it's got the least amount of good uncommons and commons overall. Now, if you want to know what the best rares are in this set for draft and sealed, you're going to want to watch this video that I have right over here. But if you disagree with any of my picks in this video, put those down in the comments so that way we can educate the entire community and see what cards we should actually be on the look for so we can all improve our win rates when it comes to the new Avatar Limited set.